what was one of the determining factors when you first started your entrepreneurship that helped you become successful?
I'll take it back to the sport of boxing.
How has your family played a part in your growth as an entrepreneur and your growth?
I'm going to take it back a little bit to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, because I think this is another important piece.
So how has that also helped play a part in keeping your mental above the level that it needs to and making sure that you continue to push forward?
Yeah, I think that was so big because, like you said, none of my family knew much about entrepreneurship.
But how can real estate be a tool for these college athletes, especially in this NIL space, to make an earn?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question.
How important is your team in your business, and how are they currently helping you grow?
Team is everything, man.
What is one play that you can share to a college athlete who's watching this video right now?
Right, so here's one play that I can give a college athlete right now. So most athletes are getting murdered by Uncle Sam right now.
They spend all their money.
They spend all their money.
They're like, oh yeah, made $10 million, but 5 of that was for us.
Yeah, you owe us $3 million.
Welcome to another edition of Athletes Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host and creator, Alex. As you know, this podcast, we talk about how to build your business and your brand as a college athlete and how to better market and position yourself in those spaces. Today, I have an amazing guest who's not only here to kind of give you a little bit of tidbit on that, but also to show you how you can invest and grow your portfolio in many different ways, right? They always say the average millionaire has 7 streams of income, and the biggest way to build wealth is by real estate. So I have my amazing guest here, Issac Grace, who's going to give you the rundown on real estate and just kind of give you a gist of his journey and how he was essentially in a similar position as you all and was able to grow and manifest out of it. What's going on, Issac?
How y'all doing? Thank you for having me today.
Of course. I appreciate you being on the podcast, man. So before we even delve in, right, I just want them to kind of, get to know you a little bit more. So can you just kind of tell me like your story, how you started, and what kind of led you into the real estate space and where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm 30 years old. I just turned 30 May 18th, so not too long ago.
Happy belated.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I come from a household of 5 children in my upbringing. Grew up with my mother raising us. At a young age, I did have a dream to play football. I was definitely in sports. I played youth Pop Warner, basketball, things of that nature. And like a lot of us, my dream was to make it to the NFL. Unfortunately, as I got into my high school days, my household was just unorganized. There was no structure, no familyhood. And I found myself bouncing around to my grandmother's house. Then I was at my uncle's house. So by my junior year of high school, I actually quit the football team. There was a lot of frustration going on and, just things wasn't going in my favor. So I did quit football at that age and I found myself just starting at scratch. Like I didn't have any dreams anymore. Really just trying to figure out what was going to be my next move. And actually at that point, I picked up the sport of boxing. So I picked up the sport of boxing at 17 years old. And boxing taught me a lot of life principles and business principles that I applied to this day. I boxed for maybe 4 years. I probably had close to about 30 amateur fights. I fought all throughout the tri-state, so I'm from New Jersey. I had my first daughter at 20 years old. I had my second daughter as well, and I have 2 twin daughters coming right now. So I'm going to be a father of 4. Entrepreneurship was something that was very important to me at a young age because I didn't have nothing growing up. My father was incarcerated coming up. My mother struggled. We were on food stamps, WIC. I barely got to play a lot of the AAU travel teams because of the cost of it. So I was able just to play the local bitty league, Pop Warner, the affordable thing. So at that young age of my young teenage adulthood, I knew that I had to figure out a way how to generate revenue. So I knew that college was never an option, never had an option to go to college, never got a scholarship letter to any colleges. So I knew that I was going to have to figure out how can I generate revenue as a boss, as an entrepreneur. So real estate was the first of 2 business ventures that I had. I was going to actually get my CDL license. I was going to jump into the car detail industry and detail cars. And I also was learning or found real estate on a YouTube page. So when I looked at all 3 options, I knew that most millionaires generated wealth through real estate. So I said, you know what? I'm going to choose real estate because it's a tangible asset. I learned during that process that real estate is one of them assets that you benefit more than just one way. And I'm sure we'll talk about that today. And I thought about the generational wealth and the long-term benefits if I started as young as 20 years old. I couldn't see myself being super wealthy as a car washer and as a truck driver. At this time, it wasn't like dispatching or owning trucks. It was physically driving trucks back in 2013. So it was a no-brainer that if I was going to go after anything or do something for the rest of my life, real estate was what I wanted to do. So I jumped into real estate at a young age, and 8.5 years later, we're here today.
And I know when one of the times when we first spoke, you told me that you jumped into real estate around 2014, right?
Yes.
What was one of the determining factors when you first started your entrepreneurship that helped you become successful?
Yeah, I think so. I'll take it back to the sport of boxing. So when I started fighting in boxing, so the sport of boxing is a mental as well as a physical grueling sport. It's more mental than physical, to be honest, right? And what I learned from the sport of boxing was the discipline that it took to stay committed to what you were doing, your fight, and also the commitment to want to do it. Like, a lot of people won't get in a boxing ring because they're scared to get punched in their mouth, right? Or they're scared to bleed and still to get cut. But once I had that commitment that I learned from boxing, I was able to implement that into entrepreneurship. So once I knew what I wanted, I had 90% of the battle figured out. Once I knew that, okay, I know that real estate is what I'm going to commit to. I probably spent 6 to 8 months dabbling with these different business ideas. I actually tried all 3 of them. I went to go do my CDLs, passed the test, practiced in the truck. It didn't feel right. Car detail shop, I had an opportunity to buy at this guy's business. So he let me pretty much run it for 3 weeks. Enjoyed it, but at the same time, I knew that it didn't feel right. I couldn't see myself doing that 10 years later. In real estate, I took an online course all during this process, and it just felt right. So the feeling was there, the gut feeling. I think that's like the start. Like, a lot of us, we have these gut feelings all the time, and most of us will push away from them and not go with our gut. So I went with my gut. Once I went with my gut, I leveraged the discipline that I learned through boxing, right? Because in the sport of boxing, I mean, it's so much eating discipline. You got to get away from the partying. You got to get away from the women. You have to get away from just a lot of the things that we normally consume. So I was able to apply them same principles I learned and say, you know what, I'm going to use what I learned in there, and I'm going to commit to this business of real estate.
I like that. And I feel like one of the biggest things that any athlete can honestly relate to is the commitment aspect, right? Because oftentimes, people look at sports and they see the entertainment aspect and they see the entertainment value of it, but they don't really pay attention to the business side as a whole. They don't pay attention to the business side when it comes to just the particular player, and not only the discipline it takes to obviously get to that level, but the discipline it takes to stay at that level and to keep learning and keep growing. And I feel like it all starts, like you said, with commitment. You have to be able to, like you said, you tried out 3 different things to start off. And it's fine to try out 3 different things when it comes to business, right? When it comes to life in general, you want to be able to experience things so you know what you like and what you dislike. But once you fix your mind to something, you have to stay committed and actually, no matter what happens, right? Because as we both know, there are trials and tribulations in business and in sports as well, right? And I feel like athletes, in my opinion, have a competitive advantage to most entrepreneurs who haven't played sports because they've been in that situation to where not everything is going right? Let's just take football, for example, right? Let's just say somebody's playing on a football team. They've been down in the game before, right? Down in the game to where it doesn't seem like they can be able to come back. They've been down to where, okay, like I said, when it comes to boxing, people don't want to get hit in the mouth. You don't want to get hit too hard on the field or injure yourself, or, you're afraid that this person across the line is bigger than you, better than you, stronger, faster, whatever the case is. But as long as you stay committed, you stay disciplined, and you stay focused on your goal, right? Ultimately, your outcome, your desired outcome will come into play. And I feel like entrepreneurship is the exact same way,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not easy. You're going to get hit in the mouth. You're going to run into trials and tribulations. You're going to run into situations that aren't ideal for you and your business and even your family at times, right? Maybe you're going through something in your family that is affecting your business, right? And I feel like as entrepreneurs and as the upcoming entrepreneurs and these young athletes, I just want them to kind of take heed to that advice. Is you have to stay committed. You have to stay disciplined. You have to stay focused on what your overall goal is. Otherwise, you can lose sight of what you're really in it for. So how has your family played a part in your growth as an entrepreneur and your growth in your business?
Yeah. So, I mean, my family has been everything in my growth. So I'm going to take it back a little bit to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, because I think this is another important piece. One of the things that I've learned coming up in my humbling beginnings, I think it was a blessing in disguise, but self-awareness. Because, see, when I was playing football, I remember I look back on my life as a football athlete and ask myself, well, why didn't I make it? Or why didn't I have a chance like I'm seeing? Like there's a couple, one kid from our hometown, Chappelle Russell, he went to the NFL. He plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now.
Mm-hmm.
And at them times, I realized that I wasn't taking, this is my freshman, sophomore, junior year of high school. I didn't have a father at home that would say, listen, you got to work out. You have to hit these weights because this is what it's going to do for you. You have to eat healthy because this is what it's going to do for you. You have to run. You have to work out even when the coach is not telling you to work out, because the level, like the competition is going to get higher and higher and higher.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that discipline, right? So when things got tough, I allowed my frustration to get the best of me. And the easy thing to do was to quit, because I wasn't a star player, right? The coach had other favoritism over other players.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of me looking at it as, because I look back now, it was like, it wasn't fair, but I wasn't putting in the work. I wasn't showing at them times the commitment and dedication to this sport of football that I wanted. So when I quit football and then I got into boxing, I had the self-awareness to say, you know what, this is a second chance for me to dream again in this sport, right? And boxing, for me, it was an amazing sport. I look at it more of a bridge that God put in front of me to take me from a adult teen to a young man. And it was a sport that I kind of finally came to terms that I was hanging up my athletic career. But getting into entrepreneurship, man, I think that the family that I had around me were mainly friends, but also my mother I was communicating with, as well as my father. They always supported me, because, like my mom tells me, my dad tells me all the time, is like, oh, we always knew you were special, like ever since a young kid. Like, and I always felt like I was special. But when the only thing I knew failed, football, then I quit boxing. I had this chip on my shoulder because I was a lot more self-aware of myself. I had these tendencies to do something that I was excited about for a short period of time, right? I was motivated to play football as a youth. I was motivated to box when I first learned the sport.
Mm-hmm.
I was motivated about real estate because it seemed like I could become a millionaire. But my family gave me the support. Like, my family wasn't the ones who said, why don't you get a job? Why don't you just try to go to college real quick? Like, why don't you try to do something that would guarantee your money? My family always knew that whatever I was going to do, I was going to go full out. So they certainly supported me enough to just give me kind words, and that's really all I needed at that time. So that my family gave me them kind words to just say, you know what, I can keep on going ahead and doing this.
I like that. And something that I was able to kind of extract out of what you just said was not only was the family aspect, it's the overall community, the overall support system, right? So in business, we all need a support system, right? Just like, and it doesn't always come from family. Sometimes it comes from, and you hinted at this a little bit, comes from a mentor, right? It comes from peers around you that have your best interest in mind. So how has those, like your mentor and the peers around you, also helped you along this journey? Because sometimes your family can only encourage you so much because they don't know everything that you're going through, right? Your mentor and your peers in that space are going through similar trials and tribulations. They've been through some of the things you've been through. So how has that also helped play a part in keeping your mental above the level that it needs to and making sure that you continue to push forward?
Yeah, I think that was so big because, like you said, none of my family knew much about entrepreneurship other than just to say that you got it. Like if this is what you want to do, go after it.
Mhm.
But my peers was more excited because like I was the first one actually trying something like real estate in our neighborhoods. So growing up, once I got done with boxing by 18, 19 years old, like unfortunately what we were doing, we were selling drugs, right? And all our friends were selling drugs. They was in a rush to make a bunch of money. I was involved in that, but I was still looking for that outlet. Like I was still looking for guaranteed long-term riches and wealth. And I knew that that wasn't going to be it. So when I always hung out with my friends, I always talked about business. I always talked about being a boss. I always talked about figuring out how can we leave something for our children because I had my first daughter at 20 years old. So out of my group of friends, I was the first one to have a child. So I was always thinking ahead. And most of my friends grew up in a household, like with their mother. I wasn't at this point, I hadn't lived with my mom since my freshman year of high school. So I was like, my mom was down here in Riverdale, Georgia. I was in New Jersey. So I always had that mindset that I have to grow up faster and I have to kind of get more stable. So when I told my friends, they supported it, like versus going against it. They supported it so much because I was so passionate about it. But the icing on the cake was the mentor. So at the time, my mentor, he was a real estate guy, but I think what really impressed me about him was he was such an advocate for African Americans, for Black people, right? And he spoke very highly about our people. He would say, "Hey, look, Black men and women, we gotta wake up at the end of the day. We gotta,
Was he Black?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah." So he stated to us, "Look, we gotta wake up. We out here and we in these clubs, we live in this lavish life, we falling in love with this entertainment, with just with athletes, but everybody's not gonna be an athlete. We gotta understand generational wealth." So that was like the first time in my entire life that I seen a Black male figure speak highly about the Black culture. So that's what really initially attracted me to him. And I'm speaking about Jay Morrison. That's what attracted me to listen to him more. Like it was the financial literacy was cool, but what made me focus to what he had to say was the fact that he was speaking for us. Like there wasn't a lot of people at these times speaking for the Black community. And I say, you know what, let me see what this guy has to offer. He was a millionaire, a felon-turned millionaire, speaking positive about the Black community. Let me listen a little bit more.
I like that. I like that. And I feel as if something that we don't have as a community in general, not a lot of at least. And thankfully, there are more people who are coming into this space, but we don't have a lot of positive Black role models, mentors, and figures to look up to, right?
Yeah.
We all, of course, we have Oprah, right? We have Barack Obama. We have, some of these high-end big names like Tyler Perry, but sometimes that seems so distant and so out of reach to obtain that it still, in a sense, dissuades and discourages us from attempting those higher goals.
Yeah.
So one thing that I do like, not only about yourself, right, but just about the circles that we're in, is that not only are we finding a lot more of those mentors that look like us, we're becoming those mentors to the people who are still looking up to us, whether we know they're looking up to us or not, right? So let's go ahead and pivot here, right? You got into the real estate space, right, because of your mentor and just a lot of the things that you tried and went through your life, right? What is one of the main things that real estate can help a college athlete in, right? Now, I understand we hear about the college student stigma, but how can real estate be a tool for these college athletes, especially in this NIL space, to make and earn money?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So for a college athlete, right, that has influence, because most college athletes has a lot of influence. They have a lot of popularity. Certainly the basketball player, the football player, the track star, the baseball player, the soccer player, they have a lot of influence from the freshmen up to the seniors. So I look at it like a brand syndication, right? Because most athletes are very busy between school and D1 athletes that are trying to go to the next level. They may not have time to run a full-fledged real estate business. but they can leverage their influence to syndicate a business so that the business can run while they continue to pursue their dreams and their goals as an entrepreneur. So I'll use myself, for example, right now in my career. It took me about 6 years to be able to build a team around my business where my business can work without me having to press every button, without having to lead my team in every direction. But that took systems, that took time, that took hiring the right people, seeking the right partnerships, and using my influence. Like, I literally have managers on my team that started as students that see me on social media, were influenced by what I taught in real estate, took my mentorship program, and ended up partnering up with me. So for a lot of the college athletes that are out there, they can use their brand to syndicate organizations so that their business can run, right? So they can use a mentor first. So they can find someone like me and say, hey, look, Isaac, I'm looking to run a full-time real estate business. I'm looking to buy commercial, residential. I'm looking to wholesale houses. I want to flip properties. I want to buy some rental property so I can start building generational wealth. How can I do that without me having to do everything in the business? Right? So we would show them, right? So in real estate, you're going to have, obviously, you have to start with your goals in mind. We'll help pick out like markets, like things we can do in the athlete's free time, right? We can dissect what markets, what type of assets are we looking for, all that stuff first. Once we know what our target is, we build a business around that. We build a team around that. So in real estate is just a product. We need sales, right? So we can find some salespeople. Most people that are in college go to school for sales, right? So you already know your influence. You can put up one social media post and you're going to have a bunch of people hitting your DM. You can tell them, meet me at the library, and not even so much meet your assistant at the library, or fill out an application. And now you got a group of salespeople that you can bring on the team, right? You need acquisition management, right? Which is another form of sales and negotiating, right? You need marketing management. So some people that are good in marketing, that can understand how to manage marketing. You got basic operations, like putting together SOPs. You got HR management. So now you know how you're hiring, how you're paying, how your splits, whether you're paying 1099, commissions on the deals, or maybe you're paying a set wage. So just with them 4 business operations and a mentor, the athlete, male or female, can bring the organization together. And then now the mentor, even from a virtual standpoint, can manage that all through a CRM, all through a communication app, and go ahead and get the ball rolling. Simple as that.
Now, although he's put it in a very, very simple way, one thing I want to point out what he said earlier, it took him 6 years to get to this point, right? So I don't want any athlete going into any business, no matter the niche, thinking that it's going to be something easy to do, something that's simple. Business is not simple. It's not easy. It's not always peaches and cream. Obviously, you look at these entrepreneurs online and you see the success that they're having, but 99 times out of 100, they put in years and years and years.
That's true.
Trial and error, going through. Trust me, there have been things that probably could have destroyed their business if their mindset wasn't right. So I just want people to take heed to his advice. Yes, he is a guru. He's a leader in his space, but it's taken him time to get here. And it's taken him trial and error over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So another thing I want to kind of point out is the fact that earlier you said something when you were talking about how you can make that process easier for them, right? You said team. And we kind of talked about it earlier, very briefly, but how important is your team in your business? And like you said, some people on your team start off as students and now they're teachers, right? So how important is your team in your business, and how are they currently helping you grow even more and more?
Yeah, I mean, team is everything, man. Without my team, I would not be able to be on this podcast right now. Without my team, I would not be able to travel as often as I've been traveling over the last year. Without my team, I wouldn't be able to scale the way that I've been able to scale my business just in the last 12 months. You know, building a team is not that easy, to be honest. I mean, I probably went through 3 sets of teams. I'm on my 3rd set of team members where I've had full-fledged staff of everything you just spoke about, and it just fall apart. The chemistry gets lost. The hunger gets lost. And even sometimes me as a leader failed the team, and it just was like 18 months, 2 years of hard work wasted down the drain, and I got to start back from square one. Just me and my business partner.
And how do you kind of revamp? Like, how do you refresh yourself during that process? Because I know that's pretty difficult, and sometimes it can be disheartening.
Yeah, it's certainly a disheartening. So it goes back to self-awareness. So what I've tried to do in my life, I find myself as a leader and just as a human being a lot of times is that I always try to start with the blame from outward, and always try to figure out why didn't it work? What didn't they do? Right. And I would always sit down and just say, you know what could I have done better? Like, if you just change that one mindset shift as a business owner, because what I've learned is that your team is going to feed off your energy, just like a coach in sports. Like, if the coach isn't showing up on time or within the excitement, how do you expect the players to be excited?
Exactly.
If the coach isn't growing the playbook, how can you expect the team, the running back or the receivers not to be so predictable, right? So it all starts from the head up, and being a leader is not easy. It's really not easy because most of the time when you're the leader, you don't have anybody leading you. And the first level, my first 2 sets of teams, I didn't have a leader really leading me. You know, I was just out here trying to be the leader for a group of people who were looking to grow in real estate. So, I mean, I just figured out, how can I do this better the next time? So I went and seek more mentorship. So I went out there and got with coaches that were running multi-million-dollar real estate businesses with a big staff. And I started learning a lot more principle. And what I realized that it takes is more time. Like, I would, for example, what I would do a lot of times early on is that, like, I would put a team together. I would work with them for maybe a week, a month, like a month or two, teach them some basic things, and then like kind of put them out there to go out there and do what I showed you. And people don't learn that way. People feed off energy. So that was just one example of like what I don't do anymore. So now I replace that by, like, we have daily meetings every morning. So even though I'm running around and I'm on these podcasts and traveling, I do an hour meeting every morning with my team. And also another thing that I've done is I put management in place. So me at the top, but then there's management and then there's staff under that. So now I might not have to be the energy for 8 different people, but I work solely and closely with 2 people.
Gotcha.
And then now they can work with and build up the remaining portions of the team. So just little small things that has helped me keep my team excited, keep them hungry, keep them motivated to keep going.
I like that. So let's get more into the meat and potatoes, right? What is one play that you can share to a college athlete who's watching this video right now and is looking to, like you said, whether it's purchase their own first property for themselves, whether it's to purchase a property for, investment purposes, whether it's commercial, real estate, whatever the case is. What's one play that you can give a college athlete in real estate?
Right. So here's one play that I can give a college athlete right now. So they have the, give me the name again of the NIL, right? So they have the new NIL deals that athletes are getting right now. So there's some athletes right here that are getting paid, right? I'm getting paid hefty, right? So here's one play I just did, right? And I had to do this as being a entrepreneur and making, 7 figures. So here's what I would say. This is how you can build generational wealth and start purchasing assets all in the matter of 12 months, right? So an athlete, let's just say they just got an endorsement with Nike, right? A 6-figure business agreement. They can take something simple as, let's say, $100,000, and they can put that into a permanent life insurance policy, right? So now they can put that into a permanent life insurance policy that is focused on the cash value of that policy, right? So they put that $100,000 into that cash value permanent life insurance policy, and now they're going to be able to borrow against that cash value. So up to maybe 70, 75% in less than 90 days. So instead of taking that 100 grand to go put it down on a house first, we're going to show them how to build long-term wealth as well as get that asset. Now, that same $100,000 cash value life insurance policy, that may have a death benefit on it close to $1 million, $1 million plus. That policy can be on themselves. That policy can be on their mother. That policy can be on their grandmother, right? It can be on a relative of their family. So once that policy is in place, they're able to borrow against that policy. So what they're going to do from there is they're going to go out there and find let's just say a 4-unit building, right? A property that has 4 separate units. So they're able to leverage something like an FHA loan where they're able to be a first-time home buyer, and they can go ahead and, let's just say they buy I'm going to use easy numbers so that I don't mix up the viewers, but $100,000 house, the 4-unit, you're not getting that for $100,000, but for easy numbers' sake, they'll be able to put as little as 3.5% down on that property. So for every $100,000 the property is worth, they're going to put $3,500 down with as little as a 580 credit score. I recommend that they have a higher credit score because, you just, it's just better to have your interest and all that stuff is going to be better, of course. But even if someone that has the credit score issue, you can run that play right there. So now you can live in one of the units and you can rent out the other 3 units where now you're putting minimum amount of your $100,000 down. Like you pretty much put none of it down. And now you have your tenants paying for that asset right there. So that's play number 2. So play number 1 with the life insurance policy, right? Because not only does that policy grow, it brings interest every year at 4%, estimated about 4%. It's something that can be passed on to your next generation. So you have $1 million policy off $100,000. You bought your first property, a 4-unit that you get to live in 1 unit, rent the others out. And then from there, you can go out there and purchase an apartment building if you want, or do your first fix and flip project, leveraging like a hard money lender. Or if you want to go and buy a 20-unit apartment building, maybe it's a $1 million project and you need 10% down, 20% down. Not only can you leverage the portion of that life insurance policy, but your influence as a college athlete, you can be able to pull together some of your other athletes who have sponsorship deals and syndicate that down payment. And now you have your life insurance policy, you have your personal residence that you live for free, and you can buy your first 20-unit apartment building by leveraging other people's money, some of your college athletes who are making a lot of money just like you, just by you being the influence by getting the knowledge from someone like myself to show you how to put, and these are simple plays to do right here.
And just to add on there, right? Because when you're saying that, it made me think of something. Essentially, right? You can obviously do that play, but you're a college student. You're on the college campus, right? So if you're able to find a property that's near or on basically the campus, that's even an added benefit for them. Because now, one of the biggest things with non-student, non-campus housing is most students essentially want to be close to campus, right? Because most of them might not have a vehicle or a solid way of transportation. So if you're able to get that property near campus, now you have essentially an easy cash flowing property, as long as that school is essentially there.
Yeah.
So,
and I know a lot of times within college, like you say, you get a 20-unit building and like there, your cash flow is like so much more than the standard because you're able to rent the beds, you're able to rent the rooms out. With a lot of times with the college campuses, they rent by the beds, they charge by the bed. So that alone would take it from how I'm breaking it down, where you may be making profit of maybe $300 per door, to now probably making 3 times that just because you're able to rent it by the rooms rather than the unit being at a college campus. So I wasn't thinking like that, but that just takes it to a whole nother level, so.
Exactly. I mean, and it's obviously it depends on where you are. Like, but I'm not into real estate. It's just something that I added on myself.
That's a fact.
Because I've actually in Atlanta, I've known people to. Now, it wasn't an apartment complex, right? And that's kind of why I thought about it. But it was like a large house. I'm sure you've seen those houses in Atlanta that they've renovated. And it's like 3 stories and stuff. But they have they rent out each floor. But within each floor, they still rent out each room too.
Yeah.
So it's just nowadays you can make money so many different ways with real estate, just from what I've seen. So just wanted to add that little gem for anybody who is who has the capability of doing that. So I will say this, right? With NIL, with most college athletes, the average NIL deal, last time I checked, it could have changed since then. The last NIL deal on average is anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, right?
Okay.
So what would you recommend a college athlete do with that smaller amount? Because yes, there are obviously the big time players who are able to get the 8, 7, 6-figure deals, but most of them are getting, that sweet spot of that anywhere from, $1,000 to $10,000.
Okay.
So what would be a play that they could possibly do, if any, right? When it comes to the real estate, or maybe just if that means just building a credit in the real estate space.
Right. So I would say the biggest thing, man, if anywhere with $3,000 to $5,000 budget, start with nothing, would be knowledge. I would say that the knowledge would be where I would put that capital, because once I'm able to obtain the information to learn how to make money off properties without owning them, without having your credit involved with them, right? It's a strategy called wholesaling real estate, where you can literally, drive your college campus area and look for distressed properties, right? Them distressed properties, you're able to go out there and find them distressed properties, find the homeowners who own these properties, negotiate a price with them, and then contract that house. Once you have the house under contract, you can turn around and sell that contract to an investor, someone that's full-fledged in the business that you can be networking with. So you're able to find a house. Let's just say you find a house for $120,000. It's a distressed property. Maybe the homeowner inherited because their mother passed away and they just can't afford the maintenance of that property. You're going to crunch them numbers. You're going to evaluate that deal. And you'll learn that with your $3,000 to $5,000 investment in mentorship or just studies. And you'll put that house under contract at a discounted price. You'll turn around and sell that contract, right? Which is called an assignment contract, for a fee. So you got it at 120, maybe you sell it for 140. And all this is done in 30 days. And on that 30 day at the time of closing, the seller's going to get their 120. The buyer's going to get the property. You're going to get $20,000 off a $1,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 investment in your knowledge. So that's what I would recommend, because now once you've done that, you can keep repeating that. So that I learned that strategy 2014 off a $1,000 investment, and I still to this day make money off of that.
See, so many people have told me about wholesaling real estate, and I personally have never gotten into it, but it always has been something that I wanted to veer more into.
Yeah.
So what's some of the basics when it comes to wholesaling that somebody should know going into?
Yeah. So some of the basics going into wholesaling real estate, that you don't need a real estate license, right? You don't need a bunch of money, right? You don't need any credit to do these deals. You can do it virtually from your basement, or you can do it from your college dorm. You don't have to see the homes, right? And you can literally go out there and create a marketing and sales business and go out there and connect motivated sellers with cash buyers and make a fee in between them transactions. Again, no real estate license. You don't need a license to do this. You don't need no credit. Your credit never gets pulled. You don't even need a down payment. Even if you have to put a down payment on the property, let's just say the contract is requiring, maybe the seller, their attorney wants a down payment. We're going to teach you how to build your investors, your list of investors. These guys have the money. So if you're an investor of mine and I'm a wholesaler and I have a deal that you really like, once I get it under contract with the seller, I can tell the seller I'm putting $5,000 down within 48 hours. If I connect with you in 24 hours and you sign that paperwork with me and I make you put $10,000 down or even $5,000 down to buy this property from me, the deposit is there, right? Just through the money relationship. So that's the simplest way that anybody I recommend should get started in real estate, because you're able to make great amounts of money, man. My first deal, I made $12,500 6 months in the business. And to be honest, Alex, I didn't know nothing about real estate when I did the deal. It was just the basic: find a seller, follow this process, find a buyer for it, sell it to the buyer for more than what you have for the seller, and you get paid at closing.
Dang, that's crazy. And you said it took you 6 months. Right?
6 months to do my first deal.
I mean, that's still not bad, because think about it. let's just say you did 2 deals like that, right, in a year. That's still $25,000 you made just off closing 2 properties. There are people who make that and they're slaving 40 plus hours a week somewhere. So that is wow.
My first year I made 75,000.
First year. So it took 6 months to make the 12.5, and then the rest of the 62.5 you made in another 6 months.
It just kept going from there. Yeah. So like, and I say this all the time. The first 4 months was just me in my own way. I had fear because I was a high school dropout. I had fear because I was a black man playing in a white man's game. Right. I had fear that people wouldn't take me serious. I had all these misconceptions about myself. I was beating myself in the beginning. Like, I was telling myself that I couldn't do it. But I got to the point where I'm like, yo, you know what? Remember self-awareness. I remember quitting football. I remember quitting basketball. I remember being excited about these things until it got tough and it got real. And I told myself, I said, you know what? I'm getting too old to follow the same pattern of myself. So I really had my back against the wall. And I just got tired of my own bullshit. And I had to be my own mentor and tell myself that, no, you're going to do this. And 2 months later, I did everything that I had fears of. I started sending my marketing out. I was scared. I was scared to talk on the phones, but I got on the phones and I learned. And one of my first conversations was with a buyer, right? And I always tell my students, like, we got to let God do his work on us. I spoke with this buyer, and long story short, he took me under his wing, and he was a Caucasian brother too. So I had this misconception that these white guys wouldn't take me seriously. And this was a white guy who knew that I was black and never at one point in our relationship ever questioned my skin color, and took me with open arms and did a lot of deals with me. And like, a lot of my $75,000 I made that year, he paid me majority of that by me finding him deals. You know, so if I had questions in between, this deal I got right here, he never went behind my back and stole a property from me. So once I started realizing that everything I was telling myself was a bunch of BS, that's what just started opening my mind up to just like the power that I had if I just stop having these limited beliefs in myself. And that's what holds most people back from reaching their goals, because we create this
imposter syndrome.
We create this energy of reality that isn't reality, like fear, false evidence appearing real, like false energy appearing real. And it's unfortunate, but it's the curse to a lot of people's failures in life.
I like that. That's deep, man. That's deep. And see, one thing you said there that I find extremely valuable, and I hope that everyone is paying attention to. You went out and essentially found a mentor, right? Yeah. Sometimes it's not always about paying for a mentor. Sometimes it's not always about the mentor finding you. You have to do the work to, for one, get out your own way, and then go out and just find someone, right? Like, let's just say you're a college athlete at home and you want to start your own. Let's say this, it's a woman college athlete, right? And she wants to start her own beauty line. How about you just reach out to some of the top beauty brands or some of the top people who have created their own beauty business online and just say, hey, I am so-and-so. I want to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not familiar in the space. Is there any tools or is there any advice you can give me? Or maybe can you mentor me? A lot of times they'll say yes. And just from my experience, because like you said, energy is transferable, right? Like it's that false stigma that you have in your head that people don't want to help other people. And they really do. So what are some success stories that you have from you helping some of your students and them actually being able to kind of like change their own lives throughout, your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of them, but one that comes right to my mind is one of my partners to this day that I work with. His name is Leo Roscoe. So he's based out of Jacksonville, Florida. He started with me in 2020. He started with me. Leo is probably in his late 30s, has a family. He's married with 3 beautiful daughters. And prior to starting with me, he did own 1 rental property, but never did wholesaling real estate, never was like a real estate entrepreneur, just bought a property. This guy was dedicated, man. He knew what he wanted. In his first year, he made a little over 6 figures. Probably did close to about 20 wholesale transactions in the Jacksonville market. And this was in the time when the Jacksonville market was going up, like, during 2020, post-COVID, August time, and the market really was going up. So with him, I mean, his first year he did 6 figures. And then from there, we partnered up. So like, that's the opportunity I give a lot of my students is that, listen, like the rock stars are the ones that I want to work with. Like those are the ones that I want to partner with. So like from there, we found a piece of land, like for like $15,000, $16,000. We found a piece of land. And we were going to build up on it, but we had other thoughts after kind of crunching the numbers, and we sold that same piece of land for $60,000 like 45 days later.
Bought it for 15. Basically just sat on it and then sold it for, you said
60,000.
60,000?
Yeah.
Dang.
Made like 45,000 on that piece of land, right? Then another one of my students reached out to me. I mean, he wasn't a student. He was a follower of mine on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Isaac, I got this portfolio of houses in Jacksonville, Florida, right? I connected him with Leo. So we helped him. We made like 35,000. Now we split that down the middle, 50-50. We took half of the wholesale fee. We gave him half of the wholesale fee. And then Leo and I did another 2 deals ourselves. So in a matter of 6 months, we had made about $70,000 working together. And
70,000 each?
No, that was just total.
Okay.
So we started a partnership, and we started pretty much we put $70,000 off of that, off of selling that piece of land, closing that portfolio, and doing a few other deals. And we did all this in 18 months. So in 18 months, he's seen close to $200,000 flipping houses. He went ahead, bought his dream home, built the home from ground up. We took our children to Disney in 2021 for my daughter's 8th birthday. I think that was her 8th birthday that year. And the biggest thing that I talk about in businessmen is that, like, I'm not just looking to get rich with people. I'm looking to build brotherhoods, sisterhoods. And that's one of the things that sets me apart from a lot of mentors, where we don't just look to just show you the business, you pay us money, and we go about our day. We look to just create long-term relationships, you know? So it's a beautiful thing when you can do it with a tangible asset like real estate. So now we run a national real estate company. You know, when we're doing deals in Jacksonville, New Jersey, we have students in California, we have students in Milwaukee. My own properties in Milwaukee as well, I bought from students. It's all coming from rock star students in these markets I know nothing about. And then that boom, they blow up, they find deals, they call me in on the deals. I take a little deeper dive and I say, there's some potential here. And we just start planting our seed in the market.
Well, your network is your net worth.
That's true.
Right? Like, some people always try to say it's what you know, not who you know. It's a mixture of both, but when it really comes down to it, it's who you know, not what you know.
Yeah.
You can always learn something after the fact, right?
That's true.
You can oftentimes people feel as if they need to know everything before they start something.
Mm-hmm.
More oftentimes than not, you just need to know the one right person or somebody who can connect you to the right person. And then you can start learning from there, because sometimes we might waste time learning things that we might not even really need later down the line.
Yeah.
Right. So it's always about building relationships. Think about it. If you ask any prominent person, anybody who's done something in their life, essentially that they feel as if would be successful, it all stems in one way or another from a relationship, right?
Yep.
Like, I met you, you're on this podcast. I've met you a few times over the years, but I have you on this podcast because of relationship with my guy, Brendan, right? Yeah. So it all stems from being able to not only know people, but build and then cultivate the relationships from there. Because like you said, now you all have, you said a national real estate company, right? So how has that been for you since it started, right? It's like, even now, like, how has more people joined with you all, or?
Yeah, so it's crazy. Honestly, sometimes I wake up now and it feels like I'm cheating. Because, you know, you think that you're supposed to work longer and harder to make more money, right? And have more success. But it's less work. But it's all about putting the people in the right place and having the systems in the right place, right? So I wake up sometimes and I'm just like, it don't feel right, because I'm not in control anymore. I'm not telling everybody what to do, but I can trust people to take over them roles, and I can go out there and start focusing on other things. Another thing that mentioned, speaking about Brendan, you know, like as entrepreneurs, we got to be honest with ourselves. So I went to Brandon and I said, look, Brandon, like I'm struggling and I need help getting my brand out there, getting in front of more people. Right. So that's how I was able to collaborate with Brendan by getting on this podcast and other podcasts, because I spoke up and I said, hey, look, this is what I'm struggling with. And this is my goal. And this is what I want to accomplish. Most people have too much pride to ask for help. And that's what's holding them back from getting to where they are. I'm a firm believer in obtaining information, right? Applying information and sitting back and reaping the benefits of it, right? So we just got to be prideless enough to understand that there are people out here, it goes back to your network, that can help you get to the destination that you don't know how to get to, you know? So.
And I feel like a perfect way to figure, because we talk about relationships and we talk about there are people out there to help you get to those destinations. But let me ask you this first. Have you ever met someone, right? You knew them for a little minute and then maybe later, right? Later down the line, you'd be like, oh, dang, you do that? I didn't know that. Has it ever happened to you? Or like somebody does something that surprises you, but it's still also like interesting or intriguing to you and or your business?
I would say Marcus. We was just in Atlanta. What was that? Maybe a month or two ago. And I was telling him about like some of my problems I've been having, like with kind of bringing my family together. And he was telling me that he had a whole mentorship on how he kind of brings together families through a mentorship. And he gave me just this one gem. And he was like, look, instead of you going out there and obtaining the information and trying to bring it back to your family, because what I was explaining to him was this. I said, look, I just got a private family foundation set up, right? And I was bumping heads with my mom trying to explain it to her, because she was just like, wait, I can't listen to that because I don't understand. I'm like, Mom, like, I don't even know what it is yet. Like, I just want you just to listen to it. And he said, nah, that's not how you do it. What you need to do is you need to bring them in with you. So instead of you have to be responsible to regurgitate the information and bring it back to them, you should do it with your family. So the first step I took was I brought my younger brother into my organization. And he has a lot of talent. But what I realized is that when I gave him mentorship, so I bought a mentorship program and I literally gave it to my entire staff. And I said, look, I'm going to give this to y'all. Y'all study it, y'all train it. And literally like clockwork, they've literally been putting the business together for me now. So when I say it feels like it's like I'm cheating, but it's all from that one principle of me always feeling like I have to be recognized as the leader. And most people that move like that aren't real leaders. True leaders are the ones who take no credibility when willing to take all fault. So that one mindset hack that my brother gave me, like I took that and I ran with that. And I said, you know what? That might be able to be the one reason how I could save my family. And that's just one proof of the pudding. So now I got my brother rocking and rolling, man. I mean, like he's running my acquisitions department, killing it. And from there, man, I'm looking to continue to grow. Like I know my younger sister, she does hair. So now that I got this whole concept, it's my job now to try to turn this all into a spider web effect. Like my sister's doing her own thing. My brother's in fashion design. My younger brother's in my acquisitions business. I'm running a real estate empire. My lady, she runs an income tax company, a credit business. Now I got to be able to turn this to a spider web effect where this is all connected into one thing. So you have true generational wealth.
And I like what you said, and you said it more than once. And I'm gonna go ahead and comment on it right quick, right? You said it feels like you're cheating because you're not in control. You're not the one that's doing everything to make sure, because we've all heard the phrase, if you want something done right, do it yourself. Yeah. I feel like that is the worst phrase that you can listen to, right? If you want something done right, find an expert or teach an expert, right? Find someone who has the passion, who has the drive. Like you can't teach passion. You can't teach energy. You can't teach drive. I can teach you the knowledge, but I can't teach you to be invested in it, right? Well, you learn things many different times in many different ways, but one of the people who helped put it into best perspective for me is Magic Johnson. Him 500 had his recession-proof conference last year in Vegas, and Magic Johnson was one of the speakers. And, you know, they were asking him a lot of questions, this, that, and the third. But one of the things he said was, our community especially, but oftentimes people, they want to be the head honcho, the one that's known for doing this, or the one in charge of this, that, and the third. He said one of the reasons he's been so successful in business is because he's okay with taking a backseat.
Yeah.
He says, I don't mind not being the face and not really having to be the one in control, as long as I have the right team around me and the people who obviously know what they're doing. He said, I'm okay with taking my $10 million and I just sit back and do nothing. And that kind of put it into a whole other perspective, because it's like, oftentimes people think in order to make money, you got to be number one.
Yeah, that's so true.
You can be the number 3 in your own business and still make the most money, be the most take home. It's just about finding the right people to put in place to actually make sure everything runs smoothly.
And I want to comment on that, because I think I love that point right there. And see, it takes credibility to get to that point. And I feel like I'm finally at that point. I waited too long because I've had credibility. But when I finally let go, and I even can feel the passion in my team when, like, because as being a coach, sometimes you say, well, I don't want to coach teaching them when I'm a coach. But I can feel the passion just by me letting go of control and then allowing them to go out there and seek the information, and not feeling like, well, what if they get more of a bigger pie than me? But I've already built the influence, the credibility, and the know-how that it's almost like I'm going to get my 10 million and play number 3, play the back seat while my team's hustling and grinding, and now building up their credibility.
Exactly.
So now we can sit at a $100 million pie, and then everybody can work for their quarter, their third, their half. But 100% of nothing is nothing.
Exactly.
You know, but 3% of $1 billion is a beautiful thing.
It's 30 million right there.
$30 million. So, and I went and again, from Marcus to, I went to, Path to Prosperity. They had a 1-day, mastermind in Atlanta not too long ago. And Marvin Mitchell's my guy, Mr. Become Your Own Bank. Right. And he was talking about the 2X versus 10X rule.
Yes. And
he was breaking it down to me, right? And just from this one meeting, I went from next year, my goal is $20 million, right? And this is why, the power is, it's proximity is power. You have to be around high-level thinkers. If I had never went to this event right here, my goal would have probably been to make $4 million next year. Last year, I made $1 million. My goal this year is to make 2.5 million. By this year is over. If I had never went to this event, I would have just wanted to double my revenue. But what he broke down with the 2X versus the 10X rule is that it's easier to 10X your business than to 2X your business. Now, when he first said it and he broke it down, I said, I hear you, but I don't hear you. But to 2X your business, you just work harder. You just do more than what you're already doing. But to 10X your business, you have to work harder on working harder. Like, you have to work harder on like building your team, right? So everything we've been talking about today, the simple process of giving my team mentorship, giving them more control, putting more operations in place, right? Daily communication, right? And then again, letting go of that control alone has started to see, again, it feels like I'm cheating, but I can see how $20 million is possible, because if I take 3 of the rock stars in my company and I build an empire around them where they each can make multiple millions of dollars with the small staff under them, all in cohesiveness, chasing real estate in different markets, it's a clear path to how you can do it. But if you told me to go from 2 million to 20 million with my same process in place, me trying to teach them every single thing and take control of everything they learn and take credibility that I taught you that, so I want credit for it.
Yes,
I would be by 2045, I might get there.
Exactly.
So like, that 10X play was just, it opened my mind up to working on the business versus working in the business.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because I read Grant Cardone's the 10X rule book. Well, I guess I listened to the audio version, not necessarily read it. But one of the things that you just said kind of also played a little bit on me as well, right? 2X, you just work more, right? 10X, you work more on building the people around you.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Grant said in that book was, and I know I'm not quoting this exactly, so forgive me. Basically, when you 10X something, you start doing the right things to 10X your business. You start working the way you're supposed to work. You start finding the people you're supposed to find. It's who, not how. It's not how can I get to 10X? How can I 10X my business? It's who can I find to help me 10X my business, right? So it's when you 10X your goals, when you 10X everything in your life, you essentially start doing the right things. You start putting your energy properly in the right areas. You start finding the right people. You start doing the certain level of work that it takes to get to that 10X level, rather than, and let's just say push come to shove, you don't get to the 10X, but if you get to 4X, 5X, or 6X, right? You only thought 2X earlier, but you still did more than what you even thought was possible.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's just a mindset shift as a whole, right? And it's crazy because thankfully I've been around people for the majority part of my life that have kind of always pushed me to think on a higher level. Sometimes it wasn't always, written in black and white ink and whatnot that this is exactly what you have to do. But there are also always been small, subtle hints to shifting, hey, you got to do this. Or I watched, The Secret, right? You ever heard of The Secret?
No.
That is probably...
Was that a movie?
It's a book. They made it into a movie.
Okay.
The Secret is really, because it's similar on what we're talking about as far as 10X and mindset, right?
Okay.
To put it in a one sentence, which essentially can't. The secret is essentially whatever you mentally put out into the universe will come back. It's basically just that simple, in the simplest way I can put it, right?
Okay.
So basically, if you want $100 million, right, you have to start mentally aligning yourself, which will obviously put your energy in a certain alignment to get the $100 million. Like I said, it's really deep. It's not just something I could necessarily put in one sentence.
Not follow.
But it's called The Secret for a reason, right? Like they essentially took all of these, prominent people in their industries, in many different industries, and essentially asked a lot of them, what is the reason to your success? What's helped you get here? This, that, and the third. And from all of that, they were able to extract, quote unquote, the secret. So let me kind of shift a little bit back on track here, right? So a few more questions for you. When it comes to a college athlete and the real estate area, right? And I know it obviously depends on exactly what they're trying to do, right? But what would be some of the financial requirements and commitments that they would need to be able to kind of get just kind of get their feet in the game?
Yeah. So it's all about strategy. Again, at the low level, wholesaling real estate really just takes grit and hustle and the will to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, no credit, little to no money, no experience. You can go out there and make $15,000, $30,000 in 45 to 90 days. Why I can say that? Because I did it. I did it as a high school dropout. I only had been studying real estate for 6 months. 4 of the 6 months I had all fear. And when I finally got over that fear, I made $12,500. 6 months later, went on to make another $60,000, right? So that's level one, right? Now, if you want to get into fixing and flipping properties, that's when you're buying distressed homes and you're renovating these properties using a construction team and you're selling them back on the market. Now, it's going to require a little bit more skin in the game, but there's always a strategy for strategy. But a lot of times when you are leveraging, like, for example, let's just break it down. Fixing and flipping real estate, you can use something called a hard money lender, right? So hard money lenders are asset-based lenders where now they are lending you based off the asset as 80% of the decision if they're going to give you the loan or not. The other 20 is going to be your credit, your cash in your account. They're going to look at your asset, your net worth. They want to see your experience in the business, but majority of the decision making is going to be the asset itself, right? So if you say, well, Isaac, I want to do a deal with nothing involved with it. All you need is two things. You need a credit partner to come on your LLC that can show for the credit. And then you're going to need an experienced partner, somebody that now has the experience that has done a few of these projects. So you can bring on two people. It can be us three here. I got the experience. You got the credit, right? And he has the, what did I say? Credit.
He's the one who's trying to actually get the property.
He has the property. You have the credit. I have the experience, right? So we all come together and then boom, we get approved on that loan, you know? And then that's a way where now he does the deal with nothing out of his pockets. But now let's just say somebody says, I don't want that flow, because what comes with that is you got to split the pie now.
Exactly.
So you don't get all the profit on the deal. If you want to do it by yourself, right? So typical lenders, so the credit score is not that important. But again, the lower it is, the higher your terms are going to be. Your points on the loan, your down payment, your interest is all going to be higher if your credit score is not that great. So typically what a lender wants to see is, so let's just say that they're going to loan you up to 90% of the purchase price and 100% of the construction. So for every $100,000 you're borrowing, you're going to have to bring about $10,000 if you have somewhere around about a fair to good credit score. So 680 to about 700. You're going to be bringing about $10,000 for every $100,000 you borrow, right? So also what they're going to want to see is liquidity in your bank account. So how these hard money loans work is that, again, they're going to loan you 90% of purchase, 100% of the rehab. So let's just say your construction budget is $100,000, used as an easy number. The bank is going to want to see that you got about $30,000 liquidity in your bank account, about 30% of the construction budget. Why do they want to see that? They want to see that because when you close on the loan, the bank is not going to give you the $100,000 construction budget wired to your account. It's going to sit in an escrow account. And what the bank is going to want to see from you is they're going to want to see you spend your money with your contractor to start the project. So you're the contractor, I'm the investor. I'm going to give you, it's $100,000 project. I'm going to give you $20,000 to start. You're going to do the demolition. You're going to put the new roof on. You're going to do the new windows and new siding. I'm going to call the inspector out. He's going to look at it. I'm going to get a wire back for my money, right? It might be $40,000 that I might get back, you know? And then now same thing. I give you another 20. You do more work. And then that's how it works.
So they basically give you the money as you work on it rather than giving it to you all up front.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So and then the other component is your experience. So this is another little hack that I learned by accident. But when you are wholesaling deals, if you want to gain your experience, so when you go to the lender, you get the best terms and rates, you want to do a strategy called double closing, right? Simultaneous closes versus assignments of contracts, because with the simultaneous close, you actually, the same exact process, but you actually buy the house and then sell it the same day. So how do you do it? You can use transactional funding, where now you get a 1-day loan. I buy the house for $100,000 from the seller, right? And then I sell the house to the buyer for $120,000. The transactional lender may charge me 1.5% on the $100,000 I borrow, so that's $1,500. And I may have closing costs from buying it from the seller, buying it from the buyer. But the bank looks at that as a buy and a sell. The hard money lender, excuse me. So now experience, credit, and liquidity is what they're looking at, and then the asset itself. So if you're out here wholesaling real estate, or you want to start in that avenue, that's a way how you can kind of get that head start and have a higher approval rate versus somebody that's just coming fresh off the street, trying to do their first house fix and flip project that they've never done real estate in their life.
Gotcha. That's a gem right there. I'm over here taking mental notes on that one. I never heard of the double close one. I've heard of people always talk about wholesale real estate in many different ways, but not in that aspect. So from your perspective, right, what is the best way And obviously NIL is going to change for college athletes as it continues to grow. But in this current market, what's one of the best ways that you can see college athletes getting into real estate? Like, what's the best intersection for that?
I mean, information is so easy to obtain nowadays. So I think it's just about college athletes being intentional. I think that college athletes, athletes in general, we're seeing it. We're seeing a lot of athletes grow into moguls a lot more, but we've also seen the nightmares with a lot of our athletes and entertainers that has had millions and lost it all.
Yeah.
Real estate is one of the vehicles that all athletes should be thinking about. See, most people, and I was speaking to one of my partners last night, but everybody has their season. Everybody is going to have their financial growth season, whether it lasts for 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years, but everyone's going to have a season. And it's all about what you do with that active income you're generating. So when you play football and get paid, that's active income. You know, when you get the sponsorship deal, that's active income that you're generating. But what happens is that, you know, they say in the Black community, the money doesn't stay in the community more than one day. So meaning that most people get paid on Friday, and by Saturday, they done paid the bills. So that went to a different race of people. They went to the club. I mean, Atlanta, a couple Black people own clubs. Yeah. So that's the exception here in Atlanta. But from an overall perspective, they went to the club. They went grocery shopping. They bought some shoes. They took care of the kids. And by that Monday, they have no money put aside to cycle through their family. So real estate is a way where you can take, you know, you go to the NFL, you go to the NBA, WNBA, you get a nice paycheck. You can take your 50% of your first year's earning and park that into some assets. Now that way, them assets are now protecting that cash, or a life insurance policy, but let's use real estate. It's protecting that cash, right? So now that cash is protected in many ways by a tangible asset that has insurance. So if that house burned down tomorrow, you're insured. So you will get your equity back out of that property. That's one. Number two is cash flow. So if you buy a multifamily property and you put $100,000 on a building and you're getting back every single year $20,000 net free cash flow, you're making 20% on your investment that you made. So 5 years later, you got your $100,000 back and it's still making 20% year over year. That's cash flow. My next one is appreciation. So that building you bought that was worth $500,000 that you put $100,000 down on, 10 years from now, that $500,000 building now is worth $750,000, maybe $1 million. So now your money is growing. You're using a small portion of money to own something worth more than what your money is, and it's continued to accumulate in value over time, right? And then the last one is this, and this is what most athletes don't think about right here. Taxes, right? So most athletes are getting murdered by Uncle Sam right now.
They spend all their money.
They spend all their money.
They're like, oh yeah, you made $10 million, but 5 of that was for us.
Yeah, you owe us $3 million. And most people are getting killed like that, but real estate is a way where you can offset a lot of that income, right? You can own a big building. You can own an apartment building, an apartment complex, a small apartment complex, and literally dollar for dollar write off majority. You can depreciate all that asset, then write off a lot of that income, right? I can even take it deeper. A strategy that I just recently did was I set up a private family foundation and a trust fund where now an athlete can partner with this trust fund, his family trust fund, or his business trust fund, and he can now, and you can set it up many different ways, right? So obviously this is all about strategy, but something that I did was I partnered with my trust fund. So now I'm in a 98.2% partnership with my trust fund. So what does that mean? That means every $100,000 I make, my trust fund takes over 98,000 of that $100,000. So every year I'm going to see Uncle Sam at 2% of my revenue as a W-2 or as a K-1 earner, right? Now, it gets deeper than that because trust funds do pay taxes, but there's a strategy, right? So the strategy is this. So from there, it's many strategies, but what I do now is life insurance. So the difference when you own a life insurance policy that you personally own, there's no, it's not an expense. Like I can't pay my life insurance policy and then write it off of my K1. No. But when I make my trust own the life insurance policy that's on me or on my mother or on my children, the trust is separate from me. So it's an expense for the trust, right? So let's just say I got $100,000 at the end of the year. I need to figure out what I need to do with this money, right? I can literally go back to the play we talked about earlier. I can fund $100,000 from the trust fund into a life insurance policy, permanent life insurance policy, focusing on the cash value, and boom, that profit just wiped out. I can even go deeper than that. Let's just say I don't do that play. I could donate all the money to my private foundation.
I heard about the donate because it's said now, is your private foundation like a nonprofit?
Nonprofit.
And you get, and I always hear about the tax write-offs, and now technically you're a philanthropist as well.
Yeah.
You donated. Wow. That's a gem.
And the only thing that the private family foundation requirement would be now after that $100,000 is to donate 5% of it to a nonprofit. The only requirement to keep your 501c3 status is that you have to donate 5% of your net proceeds to a nonprofit.
So if you were to donate $100,000 to your foundation, that foundation has to donate 5% of that to a nonprofit.
$5,000 I can give. We didn't speak about. I did cancer in 2019. I can go give it to a cancer foundation. I can do it to a local community. You know, I can go.
That's another way to put more money back into our own communities as well. And you really start taking that. Oh wow,
yeah.
Wow.
And then the deeper thing is this: with that private foundation, see, I'm like a dual. I'm like a dual corporation because it operates as a nonprofit, but it's still a for-profit. I can still buy real estate. I can buy securities. I can buy investments through that foundation.
Wow, this is a lot right now.
Yeah,
that's dope.
I'll tell you one last little piece that blow your mind. My mentor, Doug, is his name. He would.
Yep.
No, not Doug Depp, but Doug Depp's my guy. Doug's a low-key guy. He's not on the internet at all. High-level guy, trust fund expert. His company is Largo Trust, but
Doug Easy. I know you're talking about.
Yep. Yep. So he talked to me about, with these private foundations, you have these sales tax breaks. So he literally bought his fiance's engagement ring, right? Just through his foundation, and literally like just the flexibility that you can do, you know, with these things. You know, I mean, I'm not super pressed, but like Rolex watches, like, but the trust owns these things. Like these are the foundation, excuse me, in this example. But when he was breaking this down to me, it was just showing me like, see, if you spend that money through yourself personally, you're not building no generational wealth. But if I buy a Rolex watch through my foundation and I donate on average $100,000 a year, right, through my foundation, it's like I'm building generational wealth to pass down assets through cash, assets through real estate, assets through, commodities, things of that nature. But it just blew my mind because they even showed us like a tax return from Will Smith and Jada Smith, and how they like literally did the same play where like their trust had money and it donated the remaining proceeds to the foundation. And it's just like, yo, I'm 30 years old. I was a high school dropout, and I'm doing shit that billionaires is doing right now. And I just look at my children, I look at my family, and just say that like it's a blessing through the grace of God that I am where I am today. And no, money's not everything, but legacy is everything, you know. I try not to get caught up in the moments. I try not to get caught up in a new car right now, or who's popping on Instagram, or how can I be the most relevant person. I try to stay behind the scenes and focus on what does 100 years from now look like. Like when I'm dead and gone and I get to look down on my family, what example did I set for them? Because I know that my great-grandparents that I don't even know probably look down if they had that possibility, and probably is ashamed to watch me bounce around from different households and just have nothing and just struggle. And I don't want that for myself. So I'm just excited just to be able to obtain this information. This information was hidden from us during school. These are strategies that when they created the taxes in America, this is what the wealthy people started doing with insurance and these trust funds and these private foundations to get around these loopholes of paying taxes. And the fact that, you know, young Black men and women have access to this information now is all through the grace of God.
It's a big blessing. Look, man, I'm gonna definitely have to have you on for a sequel of this podcast, because just I've learned the entire time, but just what you said within the past 5 minutes alone, I'm still over here trying to process.
Yeah.
If somebody in the audience, right, if they want to find you and like reach out to you, whether it's to, you know, join your mentorship, join your program, or even just have you as a mentor, where can they find you at?
Yeah, so I have a real estate mentorship program called Creating Cash and Real Estate Academy, where I show new, intermediate, and novice entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs how to get started in the real estate space, leveraging the one loophole we talked about today, wholesaling real estate to go out there and make $15,000 to $30,000 in the first 45 to 90 days. We teach you everything from starting your business all the way to getting to the closing table and everything in between that. I'm running a special right now where I have the cheapest real estate mentorship program in the world, where we're doing a no commitment $97 a month program. And if you get on from this show right now, I'm going to partner with my brother Alex, and we're going to split the proceeds, me and you. We're going to work something out on that, just because you're viewers and I want to see you guys win as athletes, as aspiring entrepreneurs. It's important that whatever your gift is, like my gift is real estate, but the viewer's gift may be basketball or soccer or lacrosse or softball, but that's my active gift. But I still have the same responsibility to park that cash I make from wholesaling and flipping homes into a foundation, into life insurance, into apartment buildings, so that I don't allow the money to get out of my last name's hands and back into someone else's hands. So we're making mentorship so affordable so that it's no reason why you don't get out there and get started, so that you can go out and start building generational wealth for your family.
Hey, look, I appreciate that so much. And where can they find you, say, on like social media websites and anything like that, just in case they want to, you know, keep up to date and see some of the things that you do throughout the community?
Yep. So all you got to do is text the word HOPE to 732-314-7978. You can find me on Instagram at Mr. Issac Grace. It's ISSAC. I'm on Facebook, Issac Grace. My TikTok is at Mr. Issac Grace. I'm always on there dropping knowledge, giving free game. I'm always talking real estate, talking about my children, talking about generational wealth, and just talking about how, you know, the Black and brown people can come out here and leverage financial literacy to build wealth and just set the tone for the next generations to come.
Hey, man, I appreciate you so much. Like I said, I'm definitely going to have you on another podcast whenever you're back down in Atlanta. And I hope that the people who are listening were actually able to gain a lot of valuable information and knowledge, and were able to grow your mindset, right? Because the biggest change that you need to make in order to get to where you want to go is your mind first, right? Be, do, have. You have to become the person in order to do the things, to have the things that you want to do. Look, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Let's go.